Ever had one of those moments where your image of yourself or, a situation gets a sudden, sharp reality check?
Hmm.
Today, we're plunging into some ancient wisdom that gets right to the heart of this human habit. Seeing things as we wish they were, maybe? Not as they truly are.
Yeah, exactly. And we've got two really remarkable stories for this, both drawn from the Dhammapadaṭṭhakathā.
Okay.
That's a rich commentary on some of Buddhism's earliest teachings. And these aren't just old tales, they offer some, well, quite piercing insights into our self-deceptions.
And the path to clearer understanding, right?
Right.
So the first story, it introduces us to Uttarattherī. She was a nun who lived to 120.
An incredible age.
Isn't it? Her experience, it's detailed in the Uttarattherīvatthu, and it gives us this potent lesson straight from the Buddha about the fleeting nature of the body.
Yeah, this physical body we inhabit. And following that, we'll explore the Adhimānikabhikkhuvatthu, which is the account of 500 monks who were utterly convinced of their spiritual progress.
Bit overconfident, perhaps.
You could say that. And they received this rather unexpected, quite eye-opening instruction from the Buddha.
Okay, sounds intriguing. So, listener, our goal today is to really dig into these two distinct stories, try and unearth the essential lessons on self-awareness.
Yeah, hoping to shine a light on some of the illusions we might be carrying, in our own lives.
Right. Okay, let's dive in then, starting with Uttarattherī and the Buddha's teaching on the body.
Okay, so the scene unfolds in Jetavana, which was a very significant monastery back in ancient India.
Right.
And Uttarattherī, despite being 120 years old, is diligently making her rounds to collect alms.
Still active.
Very. And the text highlights this beautiful act of generosity. For 3 days running, she bumps into a monk and just unreservedly gives him all the food she's gathered, leaves nothing for herself.
Wow, 3 days straight. That really speaks volumes about her dedication.
It does. But here's where it gets really interesting. On the 4th day, she's seeking alms again, this time in a crowded place, and she sees the Buddha. And maybe in her eagerness or respect or just trying to move out of the way, she trips on her own robe.
Oh, dear. Those long robes could be tricky, I imagine.
They could. And she falls.
Right.
And it's in this vulnerable moment that the Buddha approaches her. He doesn't immediately, rush to help her up physically.
No. What does he do?
Instead, he speaks this profound verse in Pali. It goes, Pradicmada ruparukonida pahunkit, dijati putisandeho morantanta jivitanti.
Okay, that might sound a bit like a tongue twister for some of us. Let's break that down.
Definitely. The text itself gives us a pretty clear explanation.
Good.
So, parijuham, that simply means worn out due to old age.
Makes perfect sense for someone 120.
Exactly. And then Roganidhan translates as a dwelling place for all diseases. The commentary offers some striking comparisons here. It likens even a young jackal to an old jackal.
Oh, interesting.
And a young creeper to a decaying creeper. The point being that this tendency towards decline, it's inherent. It's there right from birth.
That's a pretty sobering thought, isn't it? Even at our peak, the seeds of decay are already sown.
It is. Then we have putikaya pabaguha,
Oh.
which refers to a putrid body prone to breaking down because of its, constant discharge.
Right. Not a pleasant image, but direct.
Very direct. The text then just concisely states vijati, meaning it will break down soon.
And the final part.
The verse concludes with maritantahi juvitanti, which emphasizes the undeniable truth that life inevitably culminates in death.
No escaping that.
None. The commentary reinforces this, saying something like, since the life of all beings ends in death.
So in essence, the Buddha is pointing out this, often ignored reality of our physical existence. It's aging, it's susceptible to illness, it's inherently decaying, and it will eventually break down.
It's quite a contrast, isn't it, to how we often try to project this image of constant vitality or, permanent.
Definitely. What's fascinating here is the impact this had, this very direct teaching.
Yes. The text explicitly states that right at the end of this verse, Uttarattherī attains Sotapadhi.
Wow. The first stage of enlightenment.
A first stage, yes. And it also mentions this teaching was beneficial for the large crowd that was there, too.
So a simple, direct confrontation with reality delivered with compassion clearly can be incredibly transformative.
It really can.
It certainly makes you consider how often we avoid truly contemplating these fundamental truths about our own bodies. Okay, let's shift our focus now.
Yeah.
Our second story involves Rather different situation, doesn't it? With those 500 overly confident monks.
That's right, a very different scenario.
What was their mindset exactly?
Well, these monks had been diligently practicing meditation, mostly in solitude.
Okay.
And because they hadn't really experienced the arising of their defilements, things like greed, anger, delusion.
Because they were isolated.
Precisely. They mistakenly believed they had eradicated them entirely. They felt they'd fulfilled their pabahittakika, the duties of a renunciant.
Wow.
And they were eager, quite proud actually, to go tell the Buddha about their perceived accomplishment.
Pride can certainly be a subtle trap, can't it? A very subtle one.
Indeed. So they arrive at the monastery, maybe anticipating some praise, as you said earlier.
Right.
But the Buddha has a rather different approach in mind. Instead of meeting them directly, he tells Ananda to give them a somewhat unusual message.
Unusual? What did he tell them to do?
He tells Ananda, let me see if I recall the Pali. Ananda tasabihana pavisitpa maidihana kamatnati, amakasusana gansvatato pakaganthva mampasantuti.
Okay, in the translation.
It basically means, Ananda, there's no point in these monks coming to see me as they are right now. Tell them to go to the charnel ground.
Yeah, charnel ground, where they discard bodies.
Exactly. Where fresh corpses are discarded, and only after going there and returning, then they may see me.
Wow. That's quite a directive, a real curveball.
It is. The text mentions the monks were perhaps a bit confused, maybe questioning it initially.
I bet.
But they complied. They figured, the Buddha, with his wisdom, must have a good reason.
Trust in the teacher.
Yes. So off they went to the charnel ground.
And what did they encounter there? What was the experience like?
Well, initially, they saw corpses that were a few days old, decaying. And that caused revulsion, as you might expect.
Yeah.
But the real test, the crucial moment, came when they saw freshly deceased bodies. And in that moment, desire raga arose within them.
Ah, so the feelings weren't gone after all.
Not at all. They suddenly realized their defilements were still there, very much present. They recognized their sakya sabhava, their state of still having defilements.
So the lack of those feelings in their meditation wasn't eradication.
No, it was just a lack of the right trigger, the right conditions for them to surface.
That's a powerful lesson in itself, isn't it? About the limitations of perceived progress, especially in a controlled environment.
Absolutely. The Buddha wasn't interested in just their intellectual understanding or their peaceful state in isolation.
He wanted them to confront the raw reality that could trigger those hidden attachments.
Exactly. And the story continues. The Buddha, still back in his dwelling, radiates light.
Okay.
And addresses the monks as if he were right there with them in the charnel ground.
Like a projection.
Sort of. And he asks them this rhetorical question, basically. Is it really appropriate to develop desire when you see this collection of bones?
Direct again.
Very. And then he utters another verse in Pali. Yanamani apatani alabunemo sarade kapotakani arihini tani disvano karatiti.
Right. Let's break this one down too. What does it mean?
Okay, so the commentary helps again. Apatani means discarded, unwanted.
Like trash.
Essentially. Sarade alabunivia compares the bones to gourds scattered by wind and sun in autumn.
Dried out, useless remnants.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And Kapotakani Athini describes the bones as being the color of a dove, that sort of pale grayish hue. So the Buddha is painting this really vivid picture of the utter lack of anything attractive or desirable in these remains.
And the question at the end.
Tani disvana karati, which translates to, seeing these, what pleasure could there possibly be?
Rhetorical, clearly.
Clearly. The commentary emphasizes that even the slightest stirring of sensual pleasure is just inappropriate when confronted with this stark reality.
So what was the outcome of this rather direct, maybe even shocking teaching method?
It was profound. The text states that at the very end of this teaching, all 500 monks.
All of them.
All of them. Right there in the charnel ground attained arahantship.
The highest stage of enlightenment.
The highest stage. Fully liberated. And then they came to pay homage to the Buddha.
Wow. That's an incredible transformation. Triggered by confronting an uncomfortable truth about their own minds.
Right there in that stark environment.
So we have these two seemingly quite different stories. The elderly nun confronting the physical reality of decay, and this group of monks facing the hidden desires within their own minds. What are the common threads? How do they connect?
Well, while one story really highlights the external reality, the physical body, its inevitable decline.
Yeah.
And the other delves deep into the internal landscape, the mind, its subtle attachments.
Right.
The fundamental message, I think, is really consistent. It's the crucial importance of seeing things as they truly are.
Without the filters.
Exactly. It's about peeling back our layers of illusion, whether those illusions concern our own permanence or maybe the purity of our intentions, like with the monks.
It really underscores how easily we can be misled, doesn't it? Either by, the temporary vigor of our bodies or by the seemingly peaceful state of our minds when things are calm.
Precisely.
And it prompts us to consider, as listeners, how we might be clinging to illusions in our own lives.
That's the key question, isn't it?
Are there areas where we might be a bit overconfident, like the monks? Or maybe avoiding uncomfortable truths about ourselves or the world around us, like the reality Uttarattherī was shown?
And this ancient wisdom holds such profound relevance today still.
How so?
Well, think about how often we invest so heavily in maintaining a youthful appearance, trying to deny the natural progression of aging. That's a parallel to Uttarattherī's situation, in a way.
Yeah, I see that.
Or how often we might assume we've conquered certain tendencies, maybe impatience or greed, just because they haven't been triggered lately.
Like the monks in their solitude.
Exactly. These stories really encourage a deeper, much more honest examination of ourselves.
So as we begin to wrap up here, we've explored the Buddha's teachings on the impermanence of the physical form through Uttarattherī's experience. And the persistent nature of hidden attachments revealed so starkly to those monks.
Both narratives really underscore this essential value, perceiving reality clearly, without the distortions of our desires and our self-deceptions.
Which brings us to that crucial point for you, the listener, to perhaps ponder on.
Yes. What personal illusions might be hindering your understanding and growth?
What uncomfortable truths, maybe small, maybe large, might be worth confronting?
Gently, perhaps.
Gently, yes. To gain a deeper, more authentic sense of self-awareness.
It's powerful food for thought.
Indeed. Well, thank you for joining us for this deep dive. We hope these ancient stories have given you some valuable insights to consider.